All right, welcome everyone to the Bristol Town Council meeting of July 7th, 2021. We all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everyone. We're verified that there's actually real people here tonight, which tells us there's real progress. It's wonderful, absolutely wonderful. We're gonna get right into it. I'm actually gonna add or ask for us to add a couple of agenda items, but Madam Clerk, if you could start with our standard progress.
The first item of business is the consent agenda.
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Motion made by Tim, seconded by Tony to approve. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
The next item on the agenda is item B1. This is public hearing. We have Jennifer Cavallo of DBA Beehive Cafe LLC of 10 Franklin Street, request for transfer of the Class BV intoxicating beverage license to Sherry Scott for Scooter Hospitality LLC, doing business as the Beehive Cafe.
Madam Clerk, could we go to, I took you off your game. Could we go to the minutes before we could?
Yes.
Yeah. Again, I took you off your game. So.
The next item on business is the submission of minutes, and this is from the Town Council meeting of June 16, 2021.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion made by Tim, seconded by Tony. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Take two. Public hearing. This is item B1. Jennifer Cavallaro, doing business as the Beehive Cafe LLC of 10 Franklin Street. And this is a request for transfer of Class BV intoxicating beverage license to Sherry Scott for Scooter Hospitality LLC, doing business as the Beehive Cafe. And this is for new ownership.
As the clerk said, this is a public hearing, so we will open the public hearing and I will ask for anyone to speak in favor. Is there anyone to speak in favor?
Should I do that?
Yes.
Right.
We don't typically give out hints, but yes.
It may be a
Please
good
state your
idea.
name and address for the record, please.
Jennifer Cavallaro, my home address 48 Mulberry Road, Bristol. And I recommend that you agree to transfer the license to these young ladies, Sherry Scott and Emily Scott from Scooter Hospitality. They are going to take over the reins of the Beehive Cafe and the Beehive Pantry pretty soon, the next few weeks, we hope. And I wish them all well. I think they're going to be a great addition to the Bristol scene. They've got lots of ideas. They're younger than I am, younger than Chip is, and they're brimming with energy and creativity. So I hope you will agree.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That was a ringing endorsement.
Mhm.
For anyone else to speak in favor? If you could state your name and address for the record, please.
Hi, my name is Sherry Scott. My address is 91 Main Street, Warren, Rhode Island, Unit 260. And we, myself and my daughter and her dad, will be the new owners of the Beehive Cafe. We are recommending that you allow us to take over the liquor license, and we have been long-term customers of the Beehive. Emily was a barista there it was her very first job at the Beehive from the age of 14. So we have a long personal and business history with the Beehive, and we're super excited. And I might actually get slightly emotional because it's a big moment for our family. So we're very excited. We also have very deep roots in Bristol as well. We know everyone. So we're super just excited to be part of the community as business owners. So
Outstanding.
thank you.
The council gives you, and we'll get to, there's an agenda item
Yes.
coming up, but we'll give you an opportunity to come back up
Okay.
and kind of share anything that you'd like to share to-
Okay.
for new and existing customers.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else to speak in favor? Is there anyone else to speak in favor? Is there anyone else to speak in favor? I'm assuming that the chief and Archie are not here to speak against, but I'll do it anyway. Is there anyone to speak against? Is there anyone to speak against? Is there anyone to speak against? Council?
Motion to close the public hearing?
Second.
Motion to close the public hearing made by Tim, seconded by Tony. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. What's this council's pleasure?
For me, is it appropriate to merge
And D1.
D1, is it D1? Oh, I guess it is. I'm not sure if there's another. I think it's just D1 and D1.
There's D1 and D2. Yeah.
Right, so it might be
So
D1.
point of clarity from Mike is,
Yeah.
because this is a public hearing, do we need to keep them separate, but we could move that agenda item right after
Yeah,
this?
exactly. Exactly. Keep them separate and move it right after.
So I'll take, I heard the motion as to approve and to move D1 and D2 forward. Is that correct?
Yes.
Perfect. Is
I'll
there,
second that.
so motion made by Mary, seconded by Tony to approve and to move D1 and D2 forward after this portion of the discussion. Any discussion on that? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. We're almost there.
Mr. Chairman and members of the council, the next item on the agenda would be D1, and this is Jennifer Cavallaro from the Beehive Cafe with the transfer, with the request to transfer the Class BV intoxicating beverage license to Sherry Scott for Scooter Hospitality LLC, doing business as the Beehive Cafe.
And I think that's a D2.
So I think what we should do is go straight to D2 because we've transferred the license, right? In D1.
So we're going right to D2.
D2, this is Sherry Scott for Scooter Hospitality LLC, doing business as the Beehive Cafe, 10 Franklin Street, request for the vitrilling license.
What's this council's pleasure? And I'll ask Sherry to come up.
Based on all the positive recommendations, make a motion to request to transfer the vittling license.
So motion made by Tim, seconded by Mary. Discussion. Sherry, this is your part.
Thank you.
Or Emily, either one. You tell us.
Together.
But take,
I'm
yeah,
gonna take Miss Emily up here with me.
this is your opportunity for a 30-second commercial on
Okay.
what you are and where you're going.
Okay, so my name is Sherry Scott. I told you that a minute ago. This is
My name is Emily Scott.
And we have both been customers of Beehive for many, many, many years from the very beginning of the Beehive. I have a background in business management as well as I've spent the last 15 years of my life in the hospitality industry in the event world. So it's a good transfer over to the Beehive. Emily,
I worked at the Beehive for 8 years. Started there when I was 14 and I worked there until I was 21 years old or 22. And then I finished school at Johnson & Wales. I got a degree in hospitality management. I've been managing at Pastiche in Providence for 2 years. And it was always my dream to buy the Beehive. So here we are now in front of
Wow.
Bristol Town Council doing that. So
I'm sorry you're not more excited.
Right.
So with regards to the Beehive itself, I mean, I think the essence of the Beehive will never change. It's my hope and my, I think what makes it such a good match for us with Jen is that we understand the essence of the Beehive and the essence of the Beehive customer because we've been one. So you really won't see any changes except for maybe paint color. I might paint the walls a little different color. And things like that, but you should really not feel much difference when you walk through the front door of the Beehive. We have no intention of being a bar. I don't really want to stay up past 9 o'clock at night, frankly. So none of that will change. Everything will stay the same. I hate to say get better because that's, I think that they do an amazing job, but we can always make things better with the experience we have. And I mean, that's really it. I mean,
Perfect.
it should be smooth. It should
Perfect.
be seamless. You should not know where there's a difference unless you see myself or Emily's face. But
Perfect.
that would be it.
Any discussion from the council? Your mic's not. on.
Yeah,
I just want to wish you the best.
Thank
I mean,
you.
sound like you have a great background. I mean, I just drove by Pastiche the other day, but they were closed for vacation.
Yes.
This is like the new time everybody's closed for vacation
Yes.
after the 4th of July.
yes.
But I just want to thank you and also thank Jen because they really established a terrific business in Bristol, both on Franklin Street and also at the pantry. So thank you for all of your hard work and good luck to whatever you're taking on next. Hopefully you'll get some well-deserved quiet time to take care of yourselves.
I just say, I want to be like Jen. I just want to be like Jen. So, yeah.
Any other
we're-
discussion from the council?
Yes,
yeah.
Mr. Chairman, I wish the best.
Thank you very
and
much.
again, thank you as well, Jennifer, for all that you've done for the community as well. Thank you. The best of luck.
Thank you.
Yeah, Jen, I just wanted to say thank you. I think, Bristol, the Beehive is really one of those sort of anchor establishments that towns really rely on to bring people in and a reason to come in. It's because your product is so good. So I'm really excited for you, Emily and Sherry. You guys are picking up the baton and going forward. And I'm glad to hear things aren't going to change because it's definitely delicious in there. It's great. So I'm looking forward to coming in, but
Yes, thank
good
you.
luck.
Thank
Wishing you the
you.
best.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
So we should probably vote to approve it. So hearing no other discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good luck.
Madam Clerk, I know.
Mr. Chairman and members of the council, the next item for business is B2, and this is show cause hearing. This is the consideration in regards to the revocation of the Class B vigilant intoxicating beverage license of Toasted Bun Hospitality doing business as the Statement Tavern located on 31 State Street.
So we went from a very fun to a not so very fun. This council as it sits and actually since the time I've been on the council, we've never had a show cause hearing get to this level. I'm going to ask the solicitor to walk us through the next steps, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. To begin with, I just want to ask whether or not anyone is present here in person or anyone present virtually representing the Statesman Tavern.
Let's give Chris just a moment. So Chris, could you please, just for good and extra effort, just explain to everyone if you're on Zoom. I know we probably are all very familiar with it, but let's just give an extra moment.
If you're on Zoom and you are speaking for the petitioner, if you can please raise your hand inside the Zoom module. If you're using the Zoom app, you can hover over your video screen and you should see a hand icon at the bottom. I don't believe there's any call-in numbers
Okay,
that I can see.
excellent. Thank you. I should say Chris Vitale, our Economic Development Director. Thank you.
So the record will show that there is no one here representing Statesman Tavern this evening for this show cause hearing. I will also place on the record the fact that the Statesman Tavern, the president of the Statesman Tavern, and the registered agent for the Statesman Tavern have all been sent notice of the show cause hearing by both regular mail and by certified mail. So there's no question that they received notice about this hearing this evening. You're right, Mr. Chairman. I have also been here for quite some time, and I cannot recall a time when a license situation has proceeded to the point of a revocation hearing. So this is highly unusual for the town of Bristol. However, under the law, you have no choice. When you issued the liquor license beginning December 1 of 2020, as with all liquor licenses, there are a number of conditions that must be met. Those conditions are set by both state law primarily and by town ordinance. It is a privilege to have a liquor license, not a right, and therefore it is subject to a number of conditions to ensure the health, safety, and well-being of the citizens, of those who go into the restaurant and consume the liquor, et cetera. So in this case, a key condition has not been met. And that condition is to provide a certificate of good standing to the clerk's office showing that the holder of the license is in good standing with both the Rhode Island Division of Taxation and the Rhode Island Secretary of State. State law tells you that you cannot issue a license or a license cannot continue in place without those certificates. I'm going to ask our town clerk, Melissa, to just give you a brief report on the efforts that have been made since, I think, October of 2020 through now. We're already July of 2021. So we're talking 8 or more months. The efforts that have been made in which to work with Statesman Tavern in order to get them to comply with the regulations that every other business and license holder must comply with, not only in Bristol, but throughout the state of Rhode Island.
Mr. Chairman and members of the council, our office has tried to contact, and we have had some contact with Mr. Clayla from the Statesman Tavern. There's been over 26 different phone calls. There's been letters and emails that were sent out in October, January, February, March, April, and June. We also had in March, the police did visit Mr. Clayla at the Statesman Tavern and provided him with a violation in person. Letters were mailed out. A following follow-up correspondence email letter was mailed on March 23rd in regards to the liquor license and the documentation that was needed. A follow-up letter was also given by the solicitor at the end of April. We've tried consistently numerous times to get them here to comply with the documents that were needed.
Thank you.
So in short, every effort has been made to work with this local business to try to assist. Again, they're basically 8 months late in providing the certificates that are required that should have been here on December 1. So at this time, based on the fact that Statesman Tavern has been notified on numerous occasions by writing, by email, by certified mail, by telephone, and by your police department, given the fact that they are not here this evening to respond, the council, in my opinion, has no choice but to move to revoke the liquor license that was issued last November.
Mike, what does that motion look like, please?
The motion would be to revoke the liquor license held by Toasted Bun Hospitality LLC, DBA Statesman Tavern, on the grounds that they have failed to comply with all of the conditions relevant to the issuance of their alcoholic beverage license.
Council.
You could say so moved.
Second.
Motion made by Tony that followed the recommendations of the solicitor, seconded by Tim. Discussion?
And Mr. Chairman, under discussion, I should say, you should also offer to see if anyone in the public, before you have the actual vote under discussion, if anyone in the public wants to comment.
Thank you. This is a public hearing. I'm not going to call for and against, but I will ask for if there's any discussion or comments from the sitting public or the public on Zoom. Take a moment. Give people the opportunity if they're unsure how to do it. Nothing? Okay. Anything else, Mike?
I think you just have the vote now.
Okay. Anything from the council before we move forward?
Just had a
I'm just
couple
curious,
clarifying questions.
Yeah.
Okay, so Tim and then Mary, please.
Mike, I just had a question. So once the motion goes through, what's the process now? Is it the license is revoked immediately? How does this, is it?
So if you vote to revoke the license, that license will then become part of your list of licenses. What I'm going to recommend actually, if you do this, is that the next meeting, we begin the process of decreasing the number of BV licenses.
Okay.
So that the number of open licenses are equivalent to the number of licenses being held by businesses.
Okay, so it's immediate. Yep.
Mary.
We actually have a request for a liquor license on here tonight, but so I'm just, I guess no one knows, maybe knows the answer to this. I'm just curious why this would happen. I mean, why would they just let this lapse? I mean, a liquor license is a very, like people really fight to get
It's a
those.
property
They
right,
want a
yes.
long time. And, you know, and I've seen people, I know it's been tough for restaurants in particular, but I've seen groups of people there as I go by, you know, up the street or what have you. Does anybody have any idea? And then the second part of that is, This is the liquor license only, so they're still able to run their restaurant. if they want, correct?
Absolutely. With their vittling license, they can still run their restaurant because they meet the conditions of the vittling license, the Department of Health clearance, et cetera. What they're not meeting are the conditions of the liquor license. And Mary, without in the public going into this, it's a financial issue. You need to be current with all of your taxes in order to obtain your certificates of good standing.
So taking a moment for all of us is that I had reached out to the solicitor earlier today, and the clerk and I had spoke probably about 2 months ago at this point in time. But I wanted on the record that there was massive efforts made, more than in normal times, quite honestly, because it's incumbent upon us to make sure we have laws and ordinances, and we want to make sure that we follow all of them and we enforce all of them. And the flexibility that was given in this instance was greater than, in my opinion, than what would normally be. But we've been through some tough times. And I think we all believe that anything that we could do to be that much more flexible, but we got to a point where that flexibility was at its end, unfortunately. No joy in that, but we are here, and it's important that we follow our own laws and our own ordinances. So any other discussion before?
Just very quickly.
You need to turn on your mic.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
No, it saddens me that we actually have to take this action, that we've arrived at this point, considering that we've been very supportive of all our local businesses. And, but they certainly have not left us with many choices, unfortunately. So we have to do what we have to do on our own as well.
Any other discussion? Okay, hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Thank you, Mike.
Mr. Chairman and members of the council, the next item of business is item B3, and this is the sale of town property located on 9 Fort Street.
So I will start this by saying this. We had prior discussions that take it to this point. This is now a public hearing portion of this to sell the property located at 9 Court Street, which is, of course, is across the street from where we are right now. It's the home of the community development and building and a multitude of other things. The rationale behind it, and it's in the record here, and I'll just read my own words, that reducing the footprint of the town and improving existing town buildings by doing that, and reducing, increasing the tax base, increase the opportunity for business, and increase the opportunity for home ownership. And those are not the only reasons, but I know this council had some discussions. We all felt that it was an opportunity for us to do all of those. The next step, and if you all recall, we talked about this at the last meeting about, we had additional meetings with Gooding. Nothing bad about Gooding, but it was a much larger property. There was a lot of moving parts with that one, including a current lease. That is not the case in this instance. This is the town's. So the steps would be at this point, if the council wants to take the next step and votes to the affirmative. And I know that the administrator has some more information from us at the appraisal come back on that. We'll get that in a moment. But the next step would be, we approve this. And then the next meeting that we would have would be to speak about a potential buyer at that point, or buyers plural, I suppose. So, Mr. Administrator.
Thank you. Yeah, the appraisal is in, commercial appraisal. It's in a downtown zone, which means it has a various number of uses, residential, business, office, medical, hotel. So there's a number of uses for it. The appraisal amount is 575,000. So we would start that as a opening bid. That would be the floor least amount that we would accept if subject to a sale, and we would go out to bid.
So
minimum bids would be a 575. That would be our recommendation.
Talk to this council about, we've got Naomi Street for sale. And if you drive by it, which probably all have recently, there's a great sign out front. Outstanding job on that, talking about it being for sale. Will we follow the same process in both signage? And what else are we doing there that we would do here, please?
We have it listed on social media, Zillow, Chris, are there any other real estate outlets? Or is it just Zillow?
So Zillow feeds to a couple of different MLS websites. And then in addition to that, we are also offering or advertising on the town website as well, under the news section. And it directs over to the BidNet website that has the bid packet.
For the Naomi property, we have 2 viewings that are coming up this month, later this month, public viewings. That those dates are located on the town's website. And again, local newspaper, we have a nice sign on the property on Naomi Street. And we'll do the very similar process for 10 Court Street. Social media, the real estate outlets, and again, we go out to bid, sealed bids, and minimum we would recommend would be the appraisal amount, $575.
So to that end, Mr. Solicitor, what would be the motion if this council so chooses?
The motion would be to authorize the town administrator to market 9 Court Street for sale.
I like that motion.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion?
I would just like to say, Town Administrator, I think it's phenomenal steps that you're taking to streamline government, and I think it makes a lot of financial sense. You hear about government bloating. This is where we're doing quite the opposite here. So I think it's good steps to streamlining. So thank you.
Well put.
I just have a quick question about the proceeds from the sale of the property. I know on the Gooding property, we had created a special fund and everything like that. Is the sales from this property going to be going into the same fund as the Gooding?
That was,
Yeah.
that was the
Okay.
express purpose. Yeah. So to kind of take that to the next step,
Mhm.
Gooding and, I'm sorry, Naomi,
Mhm.
and this bill, and I know what you said with Gooding. So let's take a moment and break that down. Gooding, we set up, and I don't have my notes right in front of me, but we'll call it the Gooding Hope Development Fund, I believe is what we called it.
Trust.
We have not taken steps to define how that money shall be spent yet. In
Yep.
fact, that'll be on our next agenda to have that discussion. But for both of these, we had talked about and continue to talk about using it for our public buildings fund. So said another way, for improvements to our school buildings that we're going to continue to have. So to public building fund is long story short on that. But to Aaron's point, Gooding Avenue funds are separate and apart and restricted.
So it'd work like the coal fund or the trust or those types of, it would be kind of revolving.
So again,
Again.
without going, I agree with that, is that it
Okay.
is a restricted fund. Without going too much down the rabbit hole. The Gooding Fund, we have more discussion to have on that.
Okay.
The Colt Fund was monies that were donated, so there's a lot more flexibility in how you can invest them.
Interesting.
Simply put, you can't take public funds, or at least the way that we understand it at the moment, and invest them in anything that is medium or higher risk.
Okay.
Where the Colt Fund has some wonderful return on those investments, and we're able to use those funds. We don't believe but I say we don't believe. There's more discussion happening prior to our next meeting, so we can be well informed. We may not be able to make a decision at the next meeting, but this council said we wanted that funds or those monies restricted. They are. So we had a motion and a second to,
Authorize. the
Thank you.
town administrator to market it. Then before you vote, of course, you will open this up to the public.
I will. I want to ask, since I've opened it up to the council already, is there any other discussion from the council? Okay. So again, we have no public, well, the fire chief and Archie do count as public, but I'm assuming they're not going to say anything. So Zoom, any hands raised? Okay. All right. So hearing or seeing no public comment, hearing that the council has asked their questions, made their comments, at a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Mr. Chairman and members of the council, the next item on the agenda is item C1. And this is ordinance 2021-9, and this is limited time parking and curb loading zone. This is to add 2 15-minute parking spaces at 186 Wood Street and 1 load zone space adjacent to 186 Wood Street on Charles Street. And this is the first reading.
We just need a motion for first read.
So move.
Motion to approve the first reading for adoption.
And seconded.
Second.
Excellent. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Well, we all just go all the way down to F1 now. Look at that.
Yeah, right. Wow.
The next item on the agenda is F1, and we have Chris Amsbury of 48 Cottage Street, and this is a request for no parking space on Cottage Street.
So I understand that we have two recommendations for, I shouldn't say two recommendations, the town administrator, police chief, and the director of public works to deny the request. Chief, Chief Lynch, how are you, sir?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman.
We can't hear you, sir.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman.
Nice to see you. I understand that you, and we've done this in the past with, and I love your due diligence on this to give us a good recommendation. I understand that there was a video that Chris Vitale has that he's able to share with this council to show the actions of the police department to verify the need or lack thereof. Chris, if you could show that to all of us and the public, and then Chief, I'd ask you to weigh in once we see that, please. Oh, there's two?
There's also another one where.
Okay. I must say the Cottage Street looks wonderful. I'm sorry.
Yeah, love it.
Newly paved and the sidewalks, it looks
Yeah,
great.
sidewalks, great.
No parking, right? It's very restricted.
Mhm.
Create more hardship.
Is there one more, Chris? You can tell we're not a Hollywood studio here, so. Okay. Chief, any, obviously, if a picture is 1,000 words, then a video's, I don't know, 10,000. What would you add to what we've already seen?
Well, upon becoming chief, we wanted to look for a more formal process. And as you know, I reached out to other cities and towns with kind of like historical roads, narrow, houses close together, narrow driveways. And we, as you know, we reached out to Providence, Central Falls, I believe, in Newport. And we found that Newport had a policy that we thought was very comprehensive. So what we looked at was how many times would a homeowner, an operator of a vehicle have to maneuver the vehicle to get out of the driveway. And what Newport concluded was if it took more than 3 attempts, which means you go forward, shimmy a little to the left or shimmy a little bit to the right, if you had to do that more than 3 times, their traffic board would determine or make a determination that a parking block or additional restrictions would be needed. In this case, you could see that we used full-size vehicles to try to emulate what a homeowner would have to go to exit their driveway. And I'm not going to disagree that it's a tight fit. We were able to do that with the first and initial back out and drive out. So there wasn't even a need to kind of, as I call it, shimmy shake the vehicle 2 or 3 times to get out of the driveway. It was a clean exit. And based on that in the video that you saw, my recommendation is to deny, sir.
Thank you. And showing the video is not to make the applicant feel bad. And I hope that's not the way it conveys. It's just to help us clearly understand if the need is there. This council's got a good history of saying yes to these when absolutely appropriate. The police department and recommendations from DPW and the administrator also follow along with that. In this instance, it doesn't look that way. So I would ask the council for input and a motion.
But I do thank the chief for taking this on and looking at like the 3 attempts a year of hardship, because when you drive down, let's do this, I'm sorry. So when you drive down the street and it was just newly redone, so it was real, the boxes were just freshly painted. It really was astounded at how many there were. And it took me a little bit of time to even find that particular location because it's towards the top of the street. And I think we have a number of, we've seen with other streets, so many things that have, there'll be no parking on many of these narrow roads if we allow everyone to have a box, because everybody wants one. And yet everybody wants to be able to get out in one fell swoop. And you just can't do that, and I think that the idea of 3 attempts before it's a hardship, I think is very reasonable, because I would say in that particular case, even if it's very unlikely you'd have a bigger vehicle. Maybe you'd have a pickup truck parked in one or the other. But in maybe 2 times if you were going to be going down towards the west. So I think that is, thank you so much for doing that and doing this review. It's very important that we take a look at it. And, as we found in another street, there's a whole bunch of boxes and signs and everything else that have no backup ordinances with that. And so we really have to get this issue under control.
Is there a second?
I'll second the motion.
Okay, so I'm going to open it up to discussion. Chris just told me that the petitioner is on the call. So Chris, if you could unmute Mr. Amesbury, and I'll wait for him to come on. And Mr. Amesbury, when you're on, if you could state your full name and address for the record, please. So you are on, so you just need to unmute and state your full name and address for the record, please.
Yes, hi. Thank you to the Honorable Town Council. My name is Chris Amesbury, and the property in question is 48 Cottage Street.
Welcome. Go ahead. The floor is yours.
I guess first off, I want to thank the Honorable Town Council, and thank you to the fire police chief for doing the due diligence. My concern here is the videos, while in great detail, show 2 full-size SUVs, one parked and one pulling out. Also make the assumption that the person parked on the street is parked right against the curb. And when the car was coming out front first, you saw it kind of actually had to go over the curb in order to make that turn. My concern is during any kind of inclement weather, and if somebody does not park properly against the sidewalk, it does leave very little space or any room for somebody to squeeze by. My biggest concern is having there be an unnecessary accident or damage done to property when trying to get in and out of that driveway. Additionally, the driveway offers off-street parking for up to 6 cars. And many times those cars are facing straight out when they're pulling out. My second concern is if the tenants of that property are not able to access that driveway and that parking lot, they will then occupy more on-street spots. I'm trying to reduce the amount of cars that are parked on Cottage Street or nearby streets by offering sizable off-street parking. And I can appreciate in an older historic town like Bristol, we do have very old and narrow roads. As you saw again from those videos, if you back out, it's a lot easier. But if you drive straight out, you're either going to have to drive over the sidewalk and hope the person parked on the street is right up against their curb. Again, it leaves very little room for any kind of error on either side.
Thank you. Council?
Well, I would just suggest that the tenants, drive in and back out, because you had that extra space on the other side. Sometimes unless it's snowing, it's just 6 of one, half dozen of the other. Sometimes people think it's easy to do one, but because you have that one way, you may just want to suggest that to people who may be living in that house. I mean, I think there's no simple solution, no matter where you are downtown Bristol. It's like pretty busy. Many multifamily houses. There's lots of tenants, and there are not enough driveways for people.
I do also recognize that there were two other restricted parking spots on Cottage Street for handicap parking that have since been removed. My request of removing one additional spot would still leave Cottage Street net one additional spot from what was prior.
That's a great point, but we actually are very proud of the residents who come in front of us and ask to have those removed. So as many as that we have, let me say that again, the ones that we have, we absolutely are 100% willing to put them there. But when they're no longer needed, we want to remove them as quickly as possible. So although I do see what the math that you're doing there, and I appreciate it, honestly, I see where you're going. For myself, I think that the chief made a great point and said that if it's more than 3, then we should seriously consider it. I think if it was in and around that area, but it looked like it was reasonable and doable. And I don't know if you know this, but we had another video in front of us about a year ago with a similar situation, and we used the same rationale to deny. And we, as I said, the videos aren't the funnest thing to watch if you're looking to get this approved. But we, as the council, have found this to be very helpful to help us understand exactly what's going on. So I'd like to open up to my colleagues if there's any comments from them. And Mr. Ainsbury, anything else from you, sir, before we vote?
No, I want to thank the police chief for doing the due diligence and taking the video. Driving on the sidewalk doesn't seem to be a good solution, but I understand the matter.
Okay. Hearing no other discussion, the motion was to deny. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Ainsbury. Thank you, Chief.
Mr. Chairman and members of the council, the next item on the agenda is agenda item F2, and this is Eduardo Pereira for the Azorian Butcher Shop of 529 Wood Street, and this is a request for 2 15-minute parking signs on Wood Street.
So, Mr. Administrator, you and I spoke earlier today in regards to this. Could you just bring the council and the public up to speed on why this was? I remember this being referenced when we spoke about across the street parking. And I just, it was surprising to see this here, but after speaking with you, you helped me clear it up. So if you could share with everyone else.
So this would be an individual ordinance. We recommend that the council approve the petitioner's request. It coincides with his business hours on weekends and holidays, where he's only open till 12 noon, 8 a.m. to 12 noon, and would allow parking for the remainder of those days. Essentially, that's it. It's Monday through Saturday, 8 to 6, and Sundays and holidays, 8 to 12. But again, this would be a unique ordinance that coincides with his business hours, which has been long established there.
And am I correct in saying, let me see if I'm reading this here. So the timeframes that are being proposed are actually, they're right in front of us, 7 to 5 daily, and then 8 to 5, and then 8 to 12 on legal holidays and Sundays. So kind of limiting the impact that it has to the residents. What's this council's pleasure?
I make a motion, we refer this to, I believe it's on administrator. and the
Solicitor.
Yeah.
Draft the ordinance.
To-
Second.
Mr. Chairman, just to be clear, it would be 8 to 6
Did I read that incorrectly?
and 8 to 12, 8 to 6 Monday through Friday, and 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. Sundays and holidays. Monday through Saturday, I'm sorry. Monday through Saturday, 8 to 6, and Sundays and holidays, 8 to 12.
I see. What I read was the sign at the intersection read 1 hour parking 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. That's why I read it that way. So I concur with the administrator, 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday through Saturday, and Sundays and legal holidays, 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. And we had a motion from, I'm sorry, from Tony?
Yep.
Correct. Is it, and Tim seconded? Is there any other discussion from the council? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Mr. Chairman and members of the council, the next item on the agenda is F3, and this is Cynthia Cavallari for Wood Street Pizza from 366 Wood Street. This is a request for a 15-minute parking sign on Wood Street.
I think this is a very similar request.
A
But
motion.
the difference is it's a 15-minute parking sign, 7 days a week in front of Wood Street Pizza. And the time is, am I missing the time here?
I don't see it stated.
Here it is.
Um,
15 minutes, 7-day-a-week parking space request for Wood Street Pizza. It should be noted the business hours of operation are Wednesday to Sunday, 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. So that's what they're looking for. So it would be the same motion to refer to the solicitor and the administrator.
So moved.
Second.
Second. I think, Tony, you had
We
it.
have 2 motions in 2 seconds. I'm very comfortable that we want to move forward. Is there any other discussion?
Well, and Mr. Chairman, the record should show too that we're cleaning up some ordinances here with these signs, or I mean, the lack of ordinances, right?
Right.
I agree.
These
Yeah.
are pre-existing signs and.
Yes, in fact, to your point earlier on C1 as part of our ordinance, that was a request to have an ordinance match the signage. So yes, this is
Yeah.
and ever that it's whack-a-mole, I think. Every time we think we found them all, it continues to move. So so with that on the record, any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Mr. Chairman and members of the council, the next item on the agenda is F4, and this is Joan Maderas and Lucy Maderas of 82 High Street, first floor south. This is a request for accessible parking space in front of their home of 82 High Street.
I would move that we approve all of the paperwork seems to be in order as far as the handicap placard and all of that.
So we would refer to,
Right.
to the solicitor.
Second.
To draft.
I'll second that.
Oh, it's just, that's it. huh? Gosh. All right. So could, I interrupted you, Mary, in your mid-motion. So could you help me with that again?
Well, my motion was to approve the request, which whatever process we have to go through to bring it back to. I said all of the.
Wonderful catch-all.
Yeah, no. The paperwork looked to me like it was all in, I mean, they have the handicap placard, which I think is the key
Yes.
point to this. And that is up to date, so I think that is, I don't think there's any reason to deny it, and all the approvals have been, all the administrator and police chief have all approved as well.
Is there a second
Second.
discussion? I'm going to give the solicitor just a moment. Are you good?
So what we need to do is just have a second reading on this at the July 28th meeting.
I heard Mary say that. It was really strange.
I know.
Very strange.
Very, 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 very precise.
So we had a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Mr. Chairman and members of the council, the next item on the agenda is F5, and this is Tafuka Sai for Cedars Hookah and Cigar Lounge, 576 Medicom Avenue, unit number 4. And this is for a request for one additional BV liquor license.
So this is on our agenda. It's interesting that we've just revoked a liquor license. And as we said, we're going to take steps to remove that because that's the correct process. That doesn't mean that can't be part of this discussion. So what's in front of us is a request for a Class BV liquor license, which is a full liquor license. Some concerns that I personally have on this is that we don't know what is the menu. We don't have a menu in front of us. And to be fair to the applicant asking us to create an additional BV, unknowing about the earlier conversation, is that wouldn't, and I verified this with the clerk, that wouldn't be something that we would normally ask. But personally, I want to make sure that it's a restaurant serving alcohol. So I want to make sure, and I'm sure we all do, and I'm sure that this applicant can share all of this with us. But there's a full menu, cook, what's the seating plan, hours of operation, all of those things. None of that is in front of us right now. And again, to be fair to the petitioner or applicant, it isn't something we would normally ask as creating, but certainly something that we need as next steps. It's my suggestion, and I'm open to my colleagues' suggestions here, is that we continue this and have greater discussion when we have a menu and a seating plan and all of those next steps that we would need. And then we can discuss whether or not it's the license that we have. I'd also like us to consider what we've done in the past, not all the time, but a limited BV license with an opportunity to show that that a good citizen, if you will. And at the end of that time, that I'd be happy to consider a full BV license. That's my personal opinion, but I think it would be appropriate to continue to our next meeting once we had some more information. Colleagues?
I agree. I think we'd like to know more about it. And also just, and maybe if the applicant were here to ask more about like his current business, how busy he is, like what his current hours are, all of those details. I gathered that the police had recommended this, I believe, so.
I think they had no objection
Right,
to
no
it.
objection. I just
Yeah.
like that there, so that says to me, but we can ask clearly if there were any, if there've been incidents at this particular location at the cigar bar.
Mr. Chairman, I concur that we should just continue this until we get additional information.
Okay, so I'm going to take that as a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a motion made by Tony, seconded by Tim. Mary made some good points along with Tony. Is there any other discussion?
No.
Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Mr. Chairman and members of the council, the next item on the agenda is G1, and this is public service appointments. And we have G1A, this is special constable for fire police, and we have a recommendation from the town administrator and fire chief for Paul Valaro Jr., a senior.
I make a motion that we appoint Paul Valaro.
Second.
Motion made by Tony to appoint, seconded by Tim. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. And there's only one, but I'm going to say it anyway. Thank you to all those who volunteer. And there, because there's only one, I'll keep it really super brief. This council and the town appreciates it. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman and members of the council, and the next item on the agenda is agenda I1, and this is Erin Donovan Boyle. And this was to be a presentation and a funding request. But Erin Donovan Boyle also requested a continuance to the July 28th meeting.
So Aaron's not going to get another continuance. So I think we'll go to the 28th, in my opinion. I'm absolutely happy to hear what the proposal is. And is from reading it, I know that we all had an opportunity to take a look at it. I'd like to hear, and I know that we've talked about this a few years ago and did support, and would certainly be happy to consider supporting in the future. But maybe she can, and when I said not a continuance, I mean after the 28th. This is already the third time, I think. So this will be the third meeting, it'll be second continuance, third. Yeah. So happy to listen. And I know we all are. So why don't we just get a motion to continue?
Motion to continue to the 7/28.
Second.
Motion made by Tim to continue the 28th, seconded by Tony. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Mr. Chairman and members of the council, the next item on the agenda is I2, and this is the resolution regarding the levy of taxes, sewer service fees, and sewer assessment.
I understand that Michelle DeMayo is on the call, and I understand that Michelle is going to give us some really good news. So we'll make sure that Michelle has her microphone on and she's speaking with a loud voice.
Right. Hello. How was everyone tonight?
Good. How are you?
Good. So yes, I do have some good news. The tax rate, we were able to get it lower than we had budgeted for. So $14.38 will be the tax rate for 2021 for real estate intangibles. And the sewer use fee will be $571 per single family unit.
That's great news. Why, I actually, if you could share, I think the council knows, but if you could share with the public why it was a little bit less, what was the variable that made it less?
So the big one was the sale of St. Elizabeth's Manor that was added back onto the tax roll. It was sold to a private owner. And then of course, building around town. So building permits, a lot of people were home this year, remodeling their home offices and whatnot. So we did have some increase there as well.
Excellent. Any other questions for Michelle?
No, it's awesome news.
Michelle, just say it again. What happened to the tax rate?
It dropped.
Thank you. I'd like to hear that again. I'm
So we
sorry.
don't have to pay?
It's okay. Didn't go that low. What's this council? So what would be the correct motion? It's a resolution. So is it to adopt the resolution? Excellent. That's the motion.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Tim to adopt the resolution, seconded by Tony. Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Thanks, Michelle.
Mr.
She's already
Chairman, Mr. Chairman and members of the council, the next item on the agenda is I3, and this is Fire Chief DeMello, designation of the Chief Fire Officer.
So I'm going to give this portion of the meeting over to the administrator. I understand we have some outstanding news. And as I've mentioned earlier, we have the fire chief here, which is one of the two public members. Archie, well done, sir. But Mr. Administrator, if you could, please.
Thank you. This item on the agenda, I just thought it was important that we acknowledge and give our fire chief credit for his exceptional work and his new designation. So this was a communication I received from the Center for Public Safety Excellence, and just bear with me a minute, I'm going to read it. On behalf of the Commission on Professional Credentialing, I am writing to inform you that Michael DeMello received the Chief Fire Officer's designation on June 1st, 2021. Fire Chief DeMello becomes one of only 1,554 CFO designees worldwide. The designation program is a voluntary program designed to recognize individuals who demonstrate their excellence in 7 measured components, including experience, education, professional development, professional contributions, association membership, community involvement, and technical competence. In addition, all applicants are required to identify a future professional development plan. The CFO designation program uses a comprehensive peer review model to evaluate candidates seeking their credential. The Commission on Professional Credentialing awards the designation only after an individual successfully meets all of the organization's stringent criteria. Achieving this designation signifies Fire Chief DeMello's commitment to his career in the fire and emergency services. This professional designation is valid for 3 years. Maintaining the designation requires recipients to show continued growth in the areas of professional development, professional contributions, active association membership, and community involvement, as well as adhere to strict code of professional conduct. Please join us in congratulating Fire Chief DeMello on his achievement.
We'll give a stand out.
Yeah, excellent job. Great job.
I think it's wonderful that we can actually shake hands. Chief, outstanding job.
Thank you, thank you. And
Would
I
you like a
just-
moment?
Yeah, just a quick moment. Gotta have the floor for a second. So, it is quite a humbling experience to get to kind of all the paperwork and stuff you have to do to kind of validate that your career, nearly 30 years of this has been worth it, and it certainly has. And I thank the administrator for his support with this, as well as the police chief who also supported it. And the certificate is great. It's somewhat understated because it only has one name on it. And over almost 30 years, there's plenty of names that can be on that certificate that helped me, both as a young person starting and throughout the career. So it really is a great thing, not only for myself in my career, but really for the town. It opens up a lot of areas of communication with people around the world that can impart a lot of wisdom and experience that can help move us forward as a department and contribute more to the town. So again, thank you for the recognition.
The last comment is a classic reason why you do so well, is that you give so many other people credit for, you do an outstanding job. And by that, you motivate your people and they do an outstanding job. So it's tremendous. So it's outstanding job. Really.
Thank you.
I think we just need a motion to receive and file because it was an agenda.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Mr. Chairman and members of the council, the next item on the agenda is J1, and this is the RFP 959. And this is the concrete floating breakwaters for the future Church Street dock expansion. We received 2 bids today. The first bid was from SF Marina Systems USA LLC, and that was in the amount of $1,814,477. And the second one was from Blue Water Marine Systems, and that was in the amount of $2,587,755.
So we're going to refer to the administrator as we typically do, but do you recall what we were thinking? Was this in the ballpark of what we were thinking?
It's about 100,000 over what we thought.
So it's in the ballpark.
It is in the
Outstanding.
ballpark.
Outstanding. Council?
I mean, it's interesting to see the difference, about 700,000, you know.
Tremendous.
differential. Yes,
Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah.
You know, so you've already made the motion, so move, you know.
I made, no, you go ahead, please. All right,
Yeah, I
so
have to make a motion.
Refer to the town administrator to act in the best interest of the town.
motion made by Tony, seconded by Mary to refer the administrator. Any other discussion?
Just as an exciting step forward, you know, hopefully
Outstanding,
we're able
right?
to get this marina off the ground.
There's so much hard work that got us to this point. And if you hearken back to the request to the voters to fund this years ago now, I mean, it just so much effort. So
So
wonderful,
true.
wonderful.
It is.
No, it's, I'm thrilled to see this going forward, you know, as it was already stated, you know, something that we've been looking forward to and finally has come about. So looking forward to see the completion and bring it to fruition.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Mr. Chairman and members of the council, the next item on the agenda is K1, and this is Alan Klepper from the Barrington Director of the Bristol County Water Authority, and this is the monthly report for July.
Motion to receive and file.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Having no other business, oh, yes, we do. We actually have two that I wanted to add. If I could get a motion, please, to pull forward from the consent agenda, HH 13. Anybody?
So moved.
Is there a second?
I thought you were going to pull another one. That's why I just combined the two.
Oh, no, we're gonna do that. We're gonna have one
Okay.
more here. Don't worry, it's gonna be real quick.
I'll
So
second that.
we had a motion and a second to pull HH 13 forward. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. The other motion I was looking for was to add an agenda item for discussion purposes only for an impending change in the requirement for in-person meetings, potentially starting on July 23rd.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. So we'll start with HH 13. I spoke with the administrator earlier today, along with the solicitor, and Mr. Administrator, the HH 13 is it speaks to the executive orders for COVID-19 related. I'm going to read it right off here. Related executive orders have been valuable by permitting the adjustment of the town operations and public policy. It is my intention not to seek renewal of the local declaration of emergency after August 18th. What that means is wonderful stuff, because we're going in, we just shook the chief's hand, right? He came down and shook it. I mean, my goodness, we're in a much better place, right? So it's outstanding. So, but what that also means is that we put together and passed an ordinance that expired at the end of December that allowed for expanded outdoor dining. This council's had some discussions about that, but that has expired. If the administrator does not renew this, as he stated he's not going to on August 18th, that means that expanded outdoor dining also expires. So I think it's appropriate that this council pass, or just honestly put in place that old ordinance, which requires the normal steps. So we'll refer to the solicitor and have him write a new ordinance that would allow those things. My own personal opinion, through the mid-November past, so we're fully through this season. So we don't change anything. So in essence, allow that outdoor dining as it is right now through November 15th. I'm open, of course, anytime anybody has, but that's why I wanted to move this forward and get council thoughts and agreement on. Hopefully.
Actually, we may consider doing right through the end of November, since December 1st is the renewal of license, so.
That's a great point. Absolutely great
Good
point.
Tony.
Okay. Anything else?
So I think that I agree with that as one point. I mean, to me, it seems like if we're going to do it, it takes the time to do an ordinance and all the readings that, we don't really know what's gonna happen. I mean, not that there's a lot of outdoor seating in the winter here, but I think as you go through like maybe the holidays, it's not too cold out. I think we should just go into at least through January or even to the spring myself.
So I would certainly, to that end, I'd be happy to go through the end of the year, but I thought just the end of the season made the most sense. And then as we continue through, I don't know, to be very clear, we're talking about the expanded, so the sidewalk use and all of that would continue unabated, because that wouldn't change, in my opinion, but certainly that's why we're talking right now. So I heard you say, Mary, that you would like to go maybe potentially through the spring.
Yeah, at least through the past the first of the year, like so that the holidays are covered. If something were to happen, and so they can capture, if the weather holds out, so they can capture as much good days in the holiday season as possible. With what we're doing, I would say at the very least, we should do that. And I would go even further than that, but I mean, at the very least, I think we should go through the holidays, which would include like New Year's Eve and New Year's Day. And whatever days they happen to be on, like, I don't know.
So through January 1st, if you will.
Yeah, I mean, if that happens to be like a Friday, I would do it through the Sunday. You know what I mean? I just don't know what day that is, but just to
I
give
got
them
you.
the
I got you.
maximum amount of, being able to take care of, generate business if possible.
Council?
I agree with Councilwoman Woman Perla, only because you hear about these variant strains that are out there, and I think this is a good way to just be where we've got all the infrastructure in place just to kind of get us through. I mean, hopefully nothing will happen, but I think going right to the end of the year will be best.
I'd just like to
Mr. Administrator.
provide a little input. So the holiday season's great point, but I think when you go into January, February, March, and looking at that area last winter, it wasn't highly used. I think what's more valuable at that time of year is parking spaces for customers, for the businesses down in that area. The other thing we need to consider is snow removal. If we have a difficult winter, it'd be much easier for us if those blocks weren't there, January, February, March. Again, I think those parking spaces are valuable during those months. There's very little dining outdoors, January, February, March.
So I'll tell you
I would
what.
say, can we
So-
say late through January, January 3rd, that would be a Monday, or however you do it, like 12 a.m. like that day, like New Year's Eve is a Friday. New Year's Day would be Saturday. People might be doing something on that Sunday.
So I'll tell you what, in that vein, Mike, if we were to have this discussion as part of the site, is that a substantive change? So if we said, for example, November 15th versus January 3rd, that's part of the second reading discussion we could have, correct?
Absolutely.
Perfect.
You could do that. So as I understand it, we're going to take the ordinance that had sunsetted on December 30th, 2020. We're going to resurrect that. And we're just going to plug a new date into it.
Correct.
Mhm.
All right. So why don't we use the end date that Mary has suggested?
January 3rd.
And we can have more discussion about
Sure.
it at that point. How's that? Everybody okay with that?
Yeah.
All right. So what we would need at this point is just a motion to refer the solicitor to update that ordinance with new dates with an ending date of January 3rd. How's that? Is
So moved.
there a second? Second. Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. All right, and the second item that we added, and Mike, I'm going to lean on you on this one, is that currently the in-person meeting requirement will take effect on July 23rd if the governor does not extend the current state of affairs, which is a hybrid meeting right now or Zoom. So we're not required to meet in person, but on July 23rd, if he does not sign it, we will be required to meet in person. Mike, could you expand upon that and talk
Sure.
about where we go from here?
Absolutely. And my office will certainly prepare a memo to the town because it doesn't only, of course, apply to the town council. These requirements apply to your board, zoning, planning, et cetera. So assuming the order goes away on July 23rd, at that point, all boards, commissions, councils will have to meet in person, and individuals who want to participate should be coming to these meetings like we did pre-COVID. There is, and most likely, and again, this will be in a memo once we get further clarity, certainly people can continue to watch the proceedings, whether it be via Zoom, whether it be YouTube, whether it be
Full channel or
anyway,
whatever.
full channel, however you want to communicate it. The issue of whether or not individuals can participate the way they're doing now through Zoom is going to be an open question for all of you. So I'd really rather prefer more guidance when we get to your meeting on July 28th, because that'll be after July 23rd. We'll have a memo, we'll set forth each one of those options, but basically all the boards and commissions should plan on meeting in person starting July 23rd.
Perfect. Okay. So and the reason why I wanted this here was not only for us, not only for the public, but I know our boards and commissions are also the public, but to give a first kind of feel that this is coming, that we are set up here quite well to be able to have those meetings for most at least, and that the solicitor will be working to give us some more guidance on that. So let's just receive and file at this point in time. So,
Can I ask
Mary?
a question?
Of course, yeah.
So Mike, or Nathan, whoever, I believe there was some legislation pending, wasn't there, to allow?
There
the
was.
public to
There
participate?
was.
What happened to that?
It died.
Oh, it did?
It was adopted by the House, but not by the Senate. So that legislation that would have continued in place the way we're doing business today did not pass.
Okay.
So the only reason we're still having meetings like this is because of the executive order that's in place. Once that executive order goes away, we go back to pre-COVID conditions.
I mean, I think that is a good idea for some of the public, because not everybody can come out at night, or the winter months when you have really bad weather. I mean, to be able to take on an issue or give their input. I mean, more so than the bodies themselves, but the public aspect of it. And I was kind of hoping that the legislature would pass that aspect of it.
Didn't.
Or
Yeah.
even like they did with the kids, like in certain emergencies, like really bad weather days, instead of canceling a meeting, like, you could have it online, like, snow days that they're doing. That's how the whole distance learning thing came into effect originally.
So no more snow days, no more salty Brian, no.
So
Oh my
depressing.
God.
Happy
So to
Brian.
that end, though, we could certainly have discussion about, and I'll, we can work with the solicitor in regards to that. If is there ways of defining those critical conditions where it would be acceptable? So,
Sure,
but
absolutely. But we'll have a lot more clarity by the end of this month.
perfect. All right. So we just need to receive and file on that one if we didn't do that already.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. And now just a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Last week.
Second, please.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Thank you, everyone.